All right, guys, we all know that Disney CEO Bob Iger, or former Disney CEO Bob Iger, was actually stepping down from his role as the CEO of the Walt Disney Company, a position that he has held for, I believe, 15 years. And he had a book, talking about his experience with being the CEO of Walt Disney and everything like that. And then out of the blue, Bob Iger announces that he's stepping down as the CEO of Walt Disney. Now, many people have had, speculation as to why he was stepping down. And it could be for political reasons, because we know that he does have political aspirations, probably to run for president of the United States one day. And we probably figured that was probably one of the main reasons. And also it could have been because he achieved everything he wanted to achieve with Disney. I mean, he bought Lucasfilm. He made the MCU into a monster. Disney Plus is launched. So what else was he really going to do? Well, he stepped down and he was going to the board, and there was going to be a transition with Bob Chapek as the new CEO of the Walt Disney Company. And Bob Chapek was announced as the CEO, but yet it didn't feel like Bob Chapek was the CEO. And now we have confirmation pretty much Bob Chapek is a puppet. And a few days ago, if I'm not mistaken, Bob Iger was actually the one announcing certain projects probably would go to Disney Plus. And you're thinking, this seems like the job for the CEO. Bob Chapek should be doing this. And Bob Chapek didn't say anything about Disney Plus. And Bob Iger, we already know that he was doing Kathleen Kennedy's job when it came to Star Wars. Now he's doing Bob Chapek's job, because now, not even a month after stepping down, it has been confirmed that Bob Iger has retained the CEO position alongside Bob Chapek. So Bob Chapek isn't necessarily getting demoted, but it's pretty clear that all of the power and responsibility is going to fall on Bob Iger. This is a very, very bad look for Bob Chapek. And the reason for this is really because the state of Disney, the state of, entertainment right now, because of the pandemic that's going around. And when Bob Chapek was announced as the CEO of Walt Disney, that wasn't a popular choice among people, among the parks that Disney owns. And because Bob Chapek was the president of the park division of Disney. And for all intents and purposes, Bob Chapek wasn't looked at as someone doing a very good job with the parks. And people were wondering, how in the world can he actually run the whole entire company when he can't even run the parks division correctly? And there's rumors about him being, cheap and things like that, but I digress. But this is not a surprise to me. Ever since Bob Iger announced that he was stepping down, it looked like Bob Iger was still really in control of Walt Disney. Not a surprise. Not a surprise whatsoever. And I know that the company is most likely suffering financially because of the pandemic, and Bob Iger has to get in and reassert control. And this is what it says from the New York Times. It says, and now Mr. Iger has effectively returned to running the company. After a few weeks of letting Mr. Chapek take charge, Mr. Iger smoothly reasserted control. Blue Jeans video call by Blue Jeans video call. Disney does not use Zoom for its meetings for security reasons. The new nominal chief executive is referred to almost kindergarten style as Bob C, while Mr. Iger is just Bob, and his title is executive chairman, emphasis on the first word. Bob Iger is now intensely focused on remaking the company that will emerge, he believes, deeply changed by the crisis. The sketch he has drawn for associates offers a glimpse at the post-pandemic future. It's a Disney with fewer employees, leading the new and uncertain business of how to gather people safely for entertainment. Disney parks around the world remain closed until further notice, and furloughs of cast members and film studio employees have begun. Iger recently stated in an interview that the parks will take on new health and safety measures to make sure they are taking care of staff and guests, as well as prepare for future epidemics moving forward. The New York Times continues sharing a little more detail about what Iger plans to do. Now, speaking on the parks, you would think that would actually be Chapek, since his background is in the Disney parks, but yet Bob Iger is talking on the parks. Bob Iger has complete control. And it goes on to say here, Mr. Iger, meanwhile, is trying to figure out what the company will look like after the crisis. One central challenge is to establish best practices for the company and the industry on how to bring people back to the parks and rides while avoiding the virus's spread, using measures like taking visitors' temperatures. Mr. Iger also will, if I can actually scroll down here, Mr. Iger also sees this as a moment he has told his associates to look across the business and permanently change how it operates. He's told them that he anticipates ending expensive old school television practices like advertising upfronts and producing pilots for programs that may never air. Disney is also likely to reopen with less office space. He's also told two people that he anticipated the company having fewer employees. Mr. Iger said in an email on Sunday evening that he had no recollection of ever having said that he expected a smaller workforce. Regardless, any decision about staff reductions will be made by my successor and not me, he added. Really? Well, you have a successor, but your successor, Mr. Chapek, isn't saying anything on anything. Even though it says here, Bob Chapek will remain acting CEO alongside Iger as they continue the transition. But sadly, the coronavirus epidemic has forced Iger, a top leader in the entertainment industry, to help steer these rocky waters. It is unknown how long Iger will be taking on these responsibilities again. This just tells me they have no faith in Chapek whatsoever. None. Zero. Zilch. You have a CEO. Bob Iger wanted to step down. He did step down. And yet, Bob Chapek now apparently can't run the company during the pandemic. Obviously, he's way over his head. I know that this is something that many of us have never experienced before. None of us have been in the shoes of Chapek or Bob Iger when it comes to any type of pandemic. Nobody has ever seen anything like this in their lifetime. But it's clear as day now, Bob Chapek, I believe, will not be the CEO long term. And Bob Iger is just going to have to take on more responsibilities as time goes on. This pandemic overall, we're looking at least 1 year. 1 year for sure, probably 18 months before things truly get back to normal. So that means Bob Iger is going to be here for a while. He is. And I believe his contract was supposed to run out anyway in 2021. So I guess he's just going to end his contract as the CEO of Walt Disney, while Chapek, who's still the CEO, will just end up being a puppet CEO of Walt Disney. Nobody's going to be looking to him for anything, if you ask me, in my opinion. But this is not a surprise. Once this pandemic came around, we figured that Bob Iger would probably be taking on more of a role because Bob Chapek is just over his head. He's just completely over his head. Now, Bob Iger says they're going to be working together. I don't know how much influence Chapek is going to have. I truly believe this is Bob Iger's show, and he's been CEO for so long that he's jumping back into the role not even a month later. People are going to be looking to him. They're not going to be looking to Chapek. Maybe this is the state of affairs that Bob Iger really didn't want to be in. Maybe he was just forced to become CEO once again. But this is a bad look for Bob Chapek. But that's just my thoughts on this. What do you guys think of this? Bob Iger, the real CEO of the Walt Disney Company, is making a comeback to get the Walt Disney Company back on track through the pandemic. So guys, let me know what you think about all this in the comments. If you're new here to the channel, please hit subscribe to catch future videos from me, and we will catch you on the next video. John Matrixx, out.